Hey Precalc, I accidentally started doing your homework as my notes. Didn't dawn on me until, anyway. We're going to start in with probability. And with probability, it's what we want over the total. So just so we're aware, this is a very lame math explanation on probability. So it's the outcomes that we desire. How about this? I'll write it, desired outcomes. And instead of talking about outcomes for the total, I'm going to talk about the sample space. But yes, the sample space is all of the possible outcomes. So you're probably familiar with like the probability of rolling a 2 on a dice, or a die, I guess is the singular. And if you understand that there's only 1 2, so that's my desired outcome, out of 6 possibilities, assuming it's a standard die, that's how we find our probability. Same thing with like probability of a heads. Well, there's only 1 head on a coin, but there were 2 possibilities. And with pre-calc, it gets a lot more complicated than that. It's not just going to be something as simple as that. But here's kind of an overview and how you need to realize that we're going to use combinations and permutations and the fundamental counting principle and all of that to do this. So if we have a classroom that has 18 girls and 12 boys, we want to create a 4-person committee from these students where the order in which they choose, it does not matter. So remember, order not matter is a combination. So keep that in the back of your mind as we do that. It doesn't matter if you're chosen first or fourth, you're still part of the same committee. Now, if the teacher changed the directions and said one person to be the president, second person to be the vice president, then you might say the order matters. So in how many different ways can the teacher create this 4-person committee? Right now, as I'm looking at this, it just looks like there's 30, and we're going to do a combination, and we're going to choose 4 of them. So if you do this the long way, it would be 30 factorial, and this is how I typically do a problem like this. But you probably will need to go to a calculator at some point. And then the 26 factorial would cancel out with this 26 factorial. Because at this point, it might just be beneficial to reduce, for instance, 3 goes into 30 10 times, 4 goes into 28 7 times, and then maybe 2 goes into 10 5 times. So if you're using a calculator, you can just quickly say 5 times 29 times, I think it was 7, wasn't it? Times 27. But if you don't trust that answer, you could go to math probability and do 30C4 to get the same answer. So there's 27,405 ways this teacher could select this committee. Hopefully I copied that correctly. There we go. Oops. But we can easily change the direction and say, well, what if we only have girls on the committee? Well, there's only 18 girls to choose from. But again, it doesn't matter if you're chosen first or chosen last. And since I already walked you through the long way, let's keep this video somewhat short and just use a calculator. So that's 3,060 ways of getting all girls. But what is the probability that a committee... okay, so now we're doing the probability that we only get girls on this. So this is where I'm talking about like the desired over the total. So I need to get used to using a better word than want, but it's what we want, all girls. So there was 3,060 ways of getting girls, and the total number of ways, if we could include boys as well, was that other number. And I'm fine if you just reduce this fraction, because I know calculators will reduce. But most people, when they write answers, they'll use decimals. And again, I like 3 decimals. So 0.112, this is called a proportion, by the way. That's a probability, and I know some of you are probably familiar with changing to a percent. If you're used to probability being written as a percent, this is still 3 decimals, so I'm okay with both of these answers. So you get to choose how you want to. And just so you know, some of the multiple choice leaves your answers like this, or you might see a multiple choice with a reduced fraction, I should say that, or you might see a multiple choice question that leaves it like this: 18C4 over 30C4. So you have to understand the math as well as what the final answer would be. So hopefully that makes sense. And then it asks, what's the probability that a committee randomly selected would contain 2 girls and 2 boys? So what's different here is we don't care if the girls are chosen first, so that's 18C, but we want 2 of them, or if the boys are chosen first. I believe there's 12 of them. And what we're doing now is we have a fundamental counting principle, so we're going to multiply those 2 together, because maybe the 2 boys are chosen first, and then the 2 girls, or maybe it goes boy, girl, or it goes girl, boy. So there's multiple ways of doing this as well, but again, the order doesn't matter. Over 30C4. And again, I'm going to go to a calculator to save some time. If you're curious while you're using a calculator, you can actually type in and then go back through and change things about your calculator. And if anybody, like I'm at this point, and then if I hit the arrow, I think if I hit second enter a few times, no, that ruined it for me. Alright, maybe I shouldn't give that much advice on how to use a calculator, but there's shortcuts inside of your calculator that you can quickly type things out. 30C4 is still the total number possibility. So this is what I'm talking about, is your calculator will reduce automatically if you set it up as a fraction. Otherwise, you can hit the math, and the second option down will change it to a decimal. And I'm good with either of these answers. And just to show you the answer key, sometimes the answer key leaves it as a fraction. Sometimes they'll change it to a decimal, so 0.368. Otherwise, you might see 36.8%. Whoops. So this is equal to 0.368 or 36.8%. Or how the answer key was written is fine with me. I do want to point out that I am rounding this correctly because you do not round twice. Okay, the next number is 4, so this stays an 8. Okay, every year I have calculus students that try to round twice still. So try your best. Just know that you should not round twice. And if you have any questions, please bring them to me. I'd like to answer. I'd like to justify why. But let's keep this somewhat short. Okay, so in exercise 2, we have Adriana is trying to choose 5 DVDs to take home. To take with her on vacation. She's selecting from 6 action movies, 8 comedies, 4 dramas, and she wants to select 5. Find the probability she will choose 5 comedies. So if you look at, she has 5 movies to choose from, and she has 8 comedies. Again, it doesn't matter how she chooses those 5 comedies, but she has 8 of them to choose from. And what's the sample space? Well, there's 6 plus 8 plus 4. So correct me if I'm wrong, but that's 18 possible movies that she could choose from. So you could go to a calculator. I do want to point out that sometimes the math is not that bad when you're doing probabilities like this, because what you could always do is remind yourself that, so I just did the definition of combinations, that you can, instead of divide by a fraction, you can multiply by the reciprocal. and then I'll probably do some shortcuts here to get that answer quickly. At least I hope you would recognize then that, let's use green, that 5 factorial would cancel. Let's see, you can rewrite 18 factorial. Well, this would take a while. This is probably not the one to show you how to do this. 14 times 13 times 12 times 11. Well, if I get down to 10 factorial, I could cancel that one out with this one. I don't know if rewriting 8 factorial would be, oops, I did that wrong. So this is probably one that using a calculator would be beneficial. I'll show you the answer key here shortly. Stop at 3 factorial to cancel out with this 3 factorial. So I've rewritten 8 factorial with what I have left. And for instance, what would be a good way of doing this? Like 5, I'll switch back to red. 5 goes into 15 3 times. Let's see, 8 goes into 16 twice. Let's see, 2 times 3 is equal to 6. What would be another one? 4 goes into 12 3 times. And let's see, 7 goes into 14 twice. Whoa. So whatever my answer would be, looks like it's going to be 1 over, because I've canceled everything out, 18 times 17 times 13 times 11 times 3 times 2. But I'm going to jump to the answer key as I promised. Let's save a little bit of time. And you can see the answer key just jumps right into 8C5 divided by 18C5, and you get 1 over 153, which makes me second guess my answer. Because these multiplied together would be very large numbers. Alright, well, I haven't seen the answer key be wrong yet, so I'm going to trust this. I'm going to guess that I did something incorrect here. Yep, I see exactly where it is. 18 minus 5 is 13. Well, I'm not going to redo this video. I'm sure some of you probably caught that mistake. But then, another reason why it would be beneficial to use a calculator. So all of these should have been canceled out, and then 4 maybe goes into something else. So the answer key I'm going to trust is that 1 over 153. And you probably already saw the answer key to letter B, and it's the fundamental counting principle again, because we have, I forgot what it was, 6 action movies, and she wants to choose 2 of them. There's 8 comedies, and she wants to choose 2 of those. And then there's 4 dramas that she's going to choose 1 of those. And the fundamental counting principle says that we're going to multiply each of those, and the sample space stays the same. That 18C5. And if you go straight to your calculator and you do the math the way it looks, you'll get the right answer. And you can see how the answer key sets it up. 6C2 for the action, 8C2 for the comedy, 4C1 for the drama. Figure out the answer that way. And it's what we want, it's the desired, divided by the total number of selections, or I call it the sample space. So if you're afraid of making a mistake like I just did, I don't think you should be scared of making a mistake. Yeah, you'll get the right answer. So feel free to use a calculator. What was that answer? So 10 out of 51 if you reduce it. Again, I'll let you leave your answer like this, or you can change it to a decimal. Totally fine with me. Or you can change it to a percent. So 0.196 would be acceptable, or 19.6%. I'll accept both. And then I'll see you in the next video, because I'm at my time, to finish up these notes. And there's only one more page of them, exercise 3 through 6. So I'll try my best to keep it short, but still make it understandable.